Welcome back, fiber friends. My name is Brian. This is my puppet Clyde, and today we are here to talk about our 2025 crochet fiber art predictions. So Clyde is here because puppets are a part of my 2025 predictions, and I am going to circle back to that. For now, we're going to say goodbye to Clyde. I know, it's very sad, buddy. He's such a cutie. However, we're going to be working on carting up some more of this Santa Cruz Island that I was carting up in the last episode, where I talked about some of my more controversial knitting and crochet opinions. So if you want to go check that out, I'll have it linked below. Let's get right to it. Let's talk about my 2025 predictions for crochet and fiber art in general. So I wanted to start by talking about some of my crochet trend predictions, because I've watched a lot of other people's videos on their predictions for 2025 and what crochet trends might look like. I do agree that with so many more people being more experienced with crochet at this point, crochet has been popular. It's been having a popularity boon for a few years, and so naturally people are going to start to want more challenging projects. I've seen a lot of people saying that micro crochet is going to be the thing. Not only do I refuse to take part in this trend because I'm just not a micro crocheter. I love lightweight yarns, but for different types of things, which brings me to my next point. I think the trend is going to be lace work. I think that crochet lace work is so classic. It's beautiful. It uses up lightweight yarns, and people are starting to realize how cost efficient a lot of those lightweight yarns are, and lace patterns can be. And then also lace patterns are just really fulfilling. As somebody who really likes lace and has done a lot of lace work in the past, that's kind of why I got into crochet in the first place, if you can believe it. I don't know, I think that's going to be the thing, the new thing, because it's challenging, it's different, and I do agree that I think we're going to see a lot of people move away from bulkier weight yarns, and I think that lace work just makes sense. Next up for my 2025 predictions, kind of in a similar-ish vein, is that I think that you're just going to see a lot more people making garments come 2025. Again, I think we're seeing an uptick in skilled knitters and crocheters who have a few years of knowledge behind them. Even if they have been making the same things over and over again, there's just no doubt that you gain this muscle memory skill that is honestly worth its weight in gold when it comes to things like spinning and knitting and crochet. And so in addition to lace work, I think you're going to see more people challenging themselves with larger garment projects and more heirloom pieces in general. We've seen a lot of people discuss heirloom pieces more and more lately. I think the heirloom pieces, the lace work, and the garments, all of this kind of goes hand in hand in my opinion, just historically speaking, as far as trends go. And then in addition, I also think that you're going to see an uptick in more people are going to continue to flood into knitting, crocheting, and sewing, and I think spinning as well. And I've seen a lot of people kind of say that they think that crochet or knitting is going to have it's going to start to go down in popularity this year, yada, yada, yada. I really disagree with that. And for one reason specifically, it's that luxury goods in this day and age, the amount of money we spend on luxury goods and the amount of research that has been done to show that a large majority of these luxury goods, especially from the most famous houses, which I appreciate, runway fashion and those types of things, but there is something to be said that a lot of these houses need to be critiqued because they justify their prices with statements of ethical labor, etc., etc. And with the recent the Dior study and all that stuff that went on, I just think that you're going to see more people who, instead of paying that price for that luxury item that you can't even really regulate the actual luxury elements of anymore, I just think you're going to see more people opting to source their own materials, their own cotton, their own linen, their own wool, because also we have just been inundated with plastic fabric, and I really think we're going to start to see people push back against this. I think you're also in 2025 going to see more one-of-a-kind fabrics in general as a result, more small fabric batches, because more and more people are going to be wanting to sew their own clothes because clothing is only getting more expensive and less quality, okay? right? And so why not, if you're going to spend the money anyway, why not spend the money on the base materials and then do it yourself, so that you're guaranteeing that that stitching is like perfect, and or at least like good enough for you. You know where the labor came from, right? The only labor we're exploiting is our own. I have to say, if you were not here for the last episode where I kind of introduced this part of the fleece, I cleaned and dyed the part of the fleece that I would normally skirt, because I got this really rare Santa Cruz Island fleece, and it was only about 3 pounds, like, total, before skirting. And so instead of like wasting it, I'm going to salvage the fiber. I'm going to spin the yarn. Like, nobody else is ever gonna see this fiber or use it, but it's okay if I use it. And then I have the good batch behind me still drying. Yes, it is still drying because it's winter in New Jersey and things just like don't dry quickly. But by the good batch, I mean all of the wool that like you wouldn't skirt off. That's already behind me, clean and mordanted. I haven't really decided how I'm gonna dye it yet, so if anybody has any input on like colors they think I should do, I don't know if I'm ready for indigo, but indigo is calling me, and I did get some indigo dye for Christmas as well. While we're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video and enjoying my silly rambling. So yeah, to summarize, I think we're gonna see more self-drafting, more DIY, more make it yourself, because the quality of luxury garments has just gone down in general. The next thing that I think is going to be big in crochet, knitting, and I just think garments in general, and I think anybody who has been tuned into the cable renaissance that's kind of going on right now, this prediction was a little bit inspired by, I religiously watch Jackass Collective, clearly, because I mention them all the time on this channel, and she's knitting this really, really beautiful, like yellow cabled sweater right now. And I think we're going to just continue to see more and more texture in knitting and crochet, but not just in the actual, like, stitch choice. I think that's going to be part of it. But I think with the decrease in popularity of variegated yarns, because I can appreciate a variegated yarn. I like a variegated yarn, but I have seen a lot of discourse online saying that it's chuggy. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody's told you, but the kids are calling it chuggy. And I'm just telling you what I'm predicting. So I think we're going to see less of those variegated yarns. I think that the mohair was just the start of the textured yarn renaissance. I think we're going to see more textured yarn in general. I'm already seeing a huge uptick in people being interested in art yarn and handspun art yarn, but I also think that like people really like boucle yarn. I feel like people didn't really know how to work with it at first, but the people who like it love it. I've seen some really beautiful boucle patterns from this past year from some really, really great knit designers. Mind you, I will note that a lot of those knit designers were UK designers. I haven't seen it as much in the US, but I like to think that we're internationally minded here, right? We're not just making predictions for the US. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention that I think in addition to like crochet, knitting, and spinning, all kind of being on the rise, I think that weaving is going to get more popular too. I've seen weaving a lot more in classrooms because I have a lot of friends who are like teachers, right? And they do art classes, and a lot of the students in art classes right now I see doing weaving projects, and I think that's really interesting because I definitely didn't do weaving when I was a kid in art classes, so that's really cool to see. I'm really hype about that, but I think there's going to be more weaving in general. And that's another thing that kind of links to that textured yarn renaissance and that textured yarn boom, because I do think that weavers are, their brains, I love weavers. Their brains, they work different. They are on like a whole nother level. I really want to get my weave game on, and I really should while I have like the time. Instead, I have just been picking apart this fleece, which like is productive in some ways, but in many ways is just like, this is kind of an endless task. This fleece is so filled with VM, so I know that this is going to be like, I'm not going to finish this all in one go. I'm going to have to make one bat and then set the rest of this fiber aside and maybe get to some other projects because I do only have a month off, which for some people, they'd be like, only a month? But that's the benefit of working in the service industry. We do get winter break. Some of us who work in like the fine dining industry specifically. But my point about the weavers is that weavers just know how to use a textured yarn. They really do. Like, I feel like weavers have always been the ones who will source hand spinners for the crazy textured art yarns because they know exactly what to do with them and they know how to make them look beautiful. And I hope that's where we're going to see some of our, like, one-of-a-kind specialty fabrics come from that I kind of predicted. I'm really hoping that I think that there's going to be an arts and crafts renaissance here in the US. And I think it might be out of necessity, if I'm being honest with you, because I just think that the quality of things in our life is going down unless you control it, unless you make it yourself. And in a lot of ways, that's like an extremely like privileged take to have, but also I am of the opinion that they have convinced you that like reduce, reuse, recycle, like mending and thrifting and all those things, like those things are affordable and accessible in how like people with not a lot of means live. Like, I mended so many things when I was a broke college student, and that really helped me maintain like a fairly nice looking wardrobe during a time when I didn't really have that many funds. I just think it might happen. I just think more people are going to get fed up with crappy clothing and they're just going to kind of resort to making it themselves, especially with the fat phobia that we've seen as well. I think unfortunately a lot of larger folks, larger, average in many cases, are going to kind of be forced to make their own clothing if they don't want to be in off-the-shoulder Snoopy hell. And I love Snoopy, but like, give the girls not graphic tees. Like, what? It's not what this range is about. It's not what this range is about. I think it comes to no surprise to anyone that I do think that we're going to also see an uptick, and I've seen a lot more acknowledgement of fiber art as art, and fiber art side by side with conventional art, and making its way into art galleries, and I really think that's exciting, and I hope to see more of it, and I expect to see more of it, not just in 2025, but like in the next few years. Alright, so I do think that, although it might look to some like I can fit more fiber on this drum carder, because of how springy and floofy this fiber actually is, and because I can tell that some like decently sized locks are getting stuck on the liquor in, and they should not be getting stuck on the liquor in unless there's too much fiber on the drum carder and it has nowhere to go. So that is what's happening. I do think it's time to take this fiber off of the drum carder, and now it brings us to, and that's going to bring me to kind of our more like generalized predictions for 2025. Some really like broad strokes that I'm painting here. I hate the Pantone color of the year. I'm going to say it. I love a brown too, but why that brown? Why that brown? It's the most muted, sad brown I've ever seen. No. I think that the popular color in the upcoming like year and like few years, in fact, is going to be teal. I think that 80s-ish, even like you saw it a little bit in the late 70s too, teal is really gonna have like a resurgence, and I have a ton of teal in my closet to show you exactly the example of the color that I'm talking about. It's a very specific teal. I want to show you. So this is the teal that I'm talking about. If you've been on this channel for a while, you've probably seen all of this clothing. So this is one of my favorite thrifted sweaters. This is a great example of the teal that I'm talking about. I'm actually modeling another sweater that I'm making after this sweater shape, because I like it so much. I call these my my clown core overalls because they have really wide like tie bottoms. I got them in New York from Renaissance. It's a store in New York. Stuart Richer is the designer. They're 100% cotton, and they are this like freaking groovy teal. Do you see, like, this is the teal that I think is gonna have a moment soon, or like up and coming. Again, I just don't see the brown. And then again, here's another example. This is actually two different pieces of clothing because again, I just own a lot of this color. This isn't even all of it. I just wasn't gonna go digging. This turtleneck is a teal, and then the teal on this vintage t-shirt specifically, this is another like primo example. Love this. Definitely just foresee this being a really popular color that you're gonna see more in the upcoming few years. And as promised, the puppets. So I think puppets are going to have kind of a moment. I think you're going to start to see more puppets. I think we've already seen a lot more puppets. If you're in the know, you've been seeing them. This is one of my puppets, Clyde. This is the first puppet I ever made. I made him with absolutely no pattern. And a whole lot of hot glue and also super glue. He's beautiful. I did hand felt this fabric. It is from a Lincoln long wool sheep, so that's like what he's modeled after, which is a rare sheep, which I like to use that as a like opportunity to talk about the rare sheep. I love Clyde, even though he's a little wonky. He was in the back of my closet for a little while, so like his stuffing kind of needs to be readjusted. I thrifted all of the clothes for him, and then his little eyeballs are actually ping pong balls that I cut in half, and then I made him little felt ears. I love Clyde. Clyde's so cute. I hope you like Clyde too. I have another puppet that I'm going to show you as well. So this absolute rock and roll goddess is Daria. This is my other puppet. I made Daria with a pattern that, if you know Sophie Tro, the singer, Sophie Tro, the pattern that they use to make their puppets from the Circus Cottage, which they tell people, they're like, yeah, I use the Circus Cottage pattern. That's the pattern that I used for Daria. Daria actually has a tattoo. It's a Sophie Tro signature, which I think is very radical, very cool. She has a yarn wig that I made from leftover yarn. I also made her eyeballs from ping pong balls. She has this is like clay, and then this is also clay for her little, it's supposed to be a bridge piercing, specifically. That's what it's supposed to be. She's pretty rad. I need to work on my puppet work, but I would like to make another puppet because my mom is an early intervention specialist and my sister is a second grade teacher. And so I just think they would really appreciate like owning a puppet. So I'm definitely going to make another puppet on this channel. Yeah, I think with Sesame Street not being renewed for another season, and some of Jim Henson's Muppet 3D vision being taken down from Disney and not being available to the public anymore, I really think that people are going to start taking it into their own hands and just like making their own puppets again. When I make another puppet, I'm totally going to share the experience with you guys. I am just going to use a lot of the stuff that I already have because this dress that Daria is wearing, also thrifted, her felted skin is actually like an old felt blanket that I got from a thrift store. Those are always like everywhere in thrift stores. So if you're looking for materials to make your own puppet, highly recommend the thrift store. Just like use what you have. You don't need to go out buying fancy stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this weird little nighttime vlog. I hope that maybe you got some crafting done, or maybe you listen to me while you're at the gym. I don't know about you guys, but like to make going to the gym better, I oftentimes will listen to specifically like yarn related videos because all I actually want to do is go home and craft. So I'm like, I might as well not waste the time. Like I can find new patterns and watch videos about crafting if I can't like actually be crafting. One day I'll be strong enough to actually bring my crochet into the Planet Fitness and just sit on one of those bikes and crochet. But I have not been brave enough yet. But I hope you guys enjoyed this funny little video. Tell me your 2025 predictions if you have them. If you agree or disagree with any of mine, I'd love to hear about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.